Good morning, boys and girls. I'm back here in my makeshift classroom, and we have our anchor chart from before and just reviewing some of the lessons from earlier. We know that readers have different voices, and we've talked about all three. We have our reading voice that reads the exact text. We have our thinking voice that has a little conversation with our reading voice as we're reading. And then we had, last lesson we were talking about the distracting voice that sometimes pops up and kind of takes you off task, and it happens to everybody. But you want to try to keep track of that distracting voice when it pops up and just kind of forgive yourself, stop, go back and start that process again. So that's a review of some of the lessons we were doing. Today's lesson, we're going to talk about how to record your thoughts. So last lesson, I asked you to write down some of your interesting thinking voice thoughts, and you guys did a great job with that. But we're going to take it one step further, and we're going to write down where some of those thinking voice thoughts were coming from. So as you're reading today, you're going to find a paragraph that you find particularly interesting or that makes your thinking voice really go off a lot. And I'm going to have you stop and fill out a chart of what you see in the text or what the text says and what it actually means to you. You're going to make some meaning from it. Okay, so I'm going to put this here. And it's important that readers record their thoughts. You don't have to record every single thing you read, but depending on the type of text or the assignment that you're being asked to do, certain texts might require, some more note taking because it might be text that's harder for you to hold on to. And sometimes you just read for fun, in which case you wouldn't need to do this, but you would still have the conversation, just not be writing it all down. But today we are going to practice writing down some of our thinking thoughts and what the text said that made us think that. So today I'm going to use an example of a book that my daughter and I are reading called I Survived: The American Revolution. And I know some of you read some of these I Survived books this year, so hopefully you understand how this series works. They are historical fiction books. They pick a character and create a character who takes place in a certain time period. And in this case, the time period is the American Revolution. So I'm going to start us off on the first page of chapter 1. And I'm going to show you a little bit how I go from what the text says to what the text means or what my thought bubbles are. And I'm going to be using this chart here. Okay, and notice it looks a little bit like our anchor chart. We have the text here, okay, and what the text says, and then we also have our thinking bubble here of what the text means. So let me read to you first, and then I will go through and fill out the chart. So here we go. Here's our book. And chapter 1 actually starts with a primary source. It shows a poster advertising for soldiers to join in the war to help General Washington fight. So just very interesting. You can also look at text this way and have thought bubbles popping up about primary sources in social studies or a diagram in science class as well. So just keep that in mind. For today, I'm going to pick this first paragraph. You don't have to pick the first paragraph that you read. I'd love for you to pick a paragraph that was just popping out to you as an interesting paragraph. So if that happens to be the first paragraph, great. If not, just keep an eye out for it. So here is chapter 1, April 29th, 1776, Brooklyn, New York. So I'm just going to read through it right now so you can see it. Let me back up a little, and then I will read through it again and do the chart. Nathaniel Fox was too young to be fighting in the Revolutionary War. He was only 11 years old, but here he was on a blood-soaked battlefield in Brooklyn, New York. Thousands of British soldiers were on the attack, and Nate was sure that he was about to die. Gunfire crackled through the air. Crack! Cannon blast shook the ground. Okay, So there's our first opening paragraph, and it's a doozy. It really gets you into the book right away. It's that type of hook where it drops you right into the middle of an action scene. So now I'm going to use my says and means chart so I can show you how I'd like you to be filling it out for your book. So some of you might be worried that I'm asking you to write down full sentences here. And you're like, oh, I don't want to copy a full sentence from the book. I just want to write my thinking thoughts and move on. I wouldn't ask you to do that. That would take way too long. So this note sheet does not have to be in complete sentences at all. You might just grab up a word, or maybe 2 or 3 words together at most, but I want it to be quick. I don't want this note sheet to take you too long, okay? Because I really do want you reading a lot today. I don't want to take that reading time away. So if I look back at it, I might notice the date. I might write something down like 1776. Okay, so the text says 1776. Okay, and to me, that means we're at a certain point in history. Okay, and maybe even the year 1776 might ring a bell for some of you. It might make you think of something. Okay, and you can kind of draw an arrow just to say that those ideas kind of connected to you. And we even have a place here. We have Brooklyn. Okay, so in my head, I'm kind of picturing, like, I've been to Brooklyn before. Like, now I know we're in New York. Okay. Nathaniel Fox was too young to be fighting in the Revolutionary War. So I saw the words too young. And I was wondering, what's too young? What age would that be? What age is too young? And then it says Revolutionary War, so I might even write that down. I might even abbreviate it, okay? You don't have to write full things, okay? Rev, War, okay? So now I know, okay, there's a particular war they were fighting in. I have a lot of background knowledge about that war, and that's kind of making me think. All right, so we're in 1776 in history, okay. So we've got him fighting, maybe? If he's too young, is he fighting there? And the next part talks about a blood-soaked battlefield. So I saw the words blood-soaked. And I really did have an image in my head, and it wasn't a pleasant one. Like maybe a lot of people were dying. And I was wondering, was one side winning over another side? And then I saw thousands of British soldiers. Wow, that sounds like a lot. I can't even picture what that would be like, trying to picture big numbers like thousands of soldiers. When I think of 100, I think of like, the 100th day when you guys used to glue stuff onto pieces of paper. That's 100. So then you would have to have 10 of those pages, and that's how many soldiers for 1,000. And they said there was thousands, so maybe there was 5 or 10,000. So many, I can't even picture it. Might feel like they were everywhere. And it says, and Nate was sure that he was about to die. And we see that he's only 11, it says here 11 years old, and he's about to die. That just seems very upsetting. And how could the book start with him dying? About to die. I'm wondering how he gets out of this, because I don't think the book would go on if he dies in the first chapter. How does he escape? Okay, and there's my paragraph right there. So I just wrote some notes like this. Your notes don't have to look anything like mine. The point of taking notes today, boys and girls, is just to learn another note-taking strategy. We've learned a few so far, and I want to give you a chance to try this one out and see if you like it. It is going to help us lead into some other skills as well. So let's give this one a practice today and see how you do. Remember, just gonna go over the directions one more time. They're also in your OneNote page. Your goal today is to read for 15 minutes. When you see a really interesting paragraph that's making your thinking voice go off a lot, I want you to just kind of mark it maybe put a post-it on it or fold your page to come back to it. Keep reading. And then when you're done, you just sit down with that paragraph and just write a couple things that the text says and what it makes you think about. Okay? Good luck. I can't wait to see what you come up with.